Hi friends, welcome back to another installment of our Workbook Wednesday. Today we're doing things a little bit differently. I made you an actual workbook and included color for a change. So we're going to learn how to make a cute little dinosaur. And just an overview, the front page has the program is Procreate. I'm using the Apple Pencil. We are using the sketching brush 6B and the Studio Pen under inking. And then we will be using a 8.5 by 11 canvas and different layers. So those are the basic information pieces that you need. And then each page has different steps drawn on it. And at the bottom, there are all of the steps to go through, but I figured this way it was easier than trying to cram it all onto one worksheet. And this way you get a little bit more information out of it. So hopefully this will be a nice change. You all can let me know what you think about it and we can go from there for the future. So I'm using a blank layer with my 6B pencil under sketching, and the first steps is I'm going to draw two ovals, and they can be light. It's going to be a little tricky for me trying to do this with the other screen showing, so we're just going to pretend that I'm doing just fine. Okay, so we've got our two ovals, and the top one is going to be his head and the bottom is going to be the body. So obviously the body's going to be larger and the head is going to be a little bit more off to the side. So I'm actually going to move that just a little bit further. Perfect. All right, so our next page and our next step, use two curved lines to connect the head to the body. So we are making the neck for our dinosaur, and I'm just going to come down here and make two slightly curved lines to follow along the shape of that head into the body. And with this, you're sketching, so it can be as many sketch lines as you need. We're going to go over it and do what's called inking a little bit later on. All right, our next step is to add legs. The two legs closest to you are going to go on top of the body, and the further away ones are going to go behind it. So I'm going to start by drawing the two closest legs, and we're pretty much doing it's like a rectangle, but it's rounded on the bottom, and then the top we're just leaving open. And then for the back leg, we're adding that like hip shape, and then doing the same, almost like a rounded rectangle at the bottom and connecting it to his little dino booty. And from there we're just going to create the other legs that look like they are behind everything. So if we were to see the full legs there, they would overlap and be that same shape. But since we can't, we're just doing about half of the shape and stopping. The next step is to add the tail, and it's this shape right here, which is almost like a U shape. You can make this really funky. You can make it a lot wider if you like, or you can just do the same up and down U shape that's pictured. You could even do it down and around if that's what you prefer. I'm just doing it this way because that's what I had done in the original sketch, but you can play around with it and change up your dinosaur tail however you want it to go. The next step is we are going to add spikes. This is the most fun part. So they are like little rounded triangles, and we're going to start right after the neck meets the body, and we're going to go curve up and curve down, and it meets at a point at the top. And these are very similar if you did the mandalas to some of those elements that were included in that workbook. And we're just going to go around the tail, stopping right before we get to the point. All right, now it is time to do what I referred to as inking. So we're going to add another layer and change our brush to the studio pen under the inking options. And from here, what you're going to do is you're going to try and make as smooth of a line as possible. You could also use the calligraphy, the monoline brush if you want to. I'm just prefer the studio pen just because I'm more comfortable using it. But basically you're on your new layer and you're going to go around and you're going to trace over the different lines that you did here, ignoring any of the overlap and just making a much smoother final, oops, that little button's in the way, line. Oops. And we are actually going to connect that leg to that front edge of his body. To really make it look like it's coming from that area. Okay, then I just have his tail, the back, and the spikes. And if there are any spots that you're not pleased with your line work, you can erase them and redo them. And then I'm just gonna do the spikes. Okay, and now I'm going to turn off our sketch layer, and this is our cute little dinosaur. And you can see that my hand gets a little shaky towards the end of the day just because I get a little tired. So I can go back in and redo any sections of my lines that I'm not happy with. But for the most part, this is looking pretty cute. All right. So our next steps are going to be adding our details, and those details are the face, spots on his back, his belly, and his toes, or her, depending on what kind of dino you're creating. So for the face, I just do his eye, a little nose, and a smile, because I think they're cute. And then I just added some spots all down what I would call his spine, I guess. And you can do these in like a lighter hand if you're using a pressure sensitive pen, which the Apple Pencil is. And there's no real organization that you need for these. It's just gonna be whatever you think looks nice. And you can obviously like change this up as you do more dinosaurs, so that you get a whole variety in your pack. Or your herd. I'm not really sure what they would be called, to be honest. I'm sure somebody knows that and can comment on this video and let me know what you call a group of dinosaurs. John is cooking in the background, so if you hear little noises, that's all that is. I think right now he's putting ice in the freezer. Okay, so then all that's left for the belly, what I did is I ended up bringing this line up as well so that it looks like there's separation between the belly and the arm. And then I started drawing in the underbelly. You can continue it onto the tail if you'd like. I didn't want to do that, but you absolutely can. And then I actually carried up the line of the back leg as well. And then for the toes, I usually just do 3 little scallop lines. And sometimes they get cut off by the leg in front of it. But there is our little dinosaur. His head's a little bit more square than the original one, but I don't really mind that. But just in case it's bothering any of you, I will fix it. But the whole point is the more of these you do, the more you can switch up and give them some personality and really play around with them and just have a good time with creating, which is all we want to do here with these workbooks. Okay, I just needed to smooth that out. All right, so next we're going to add another layer and start coloring. So our line art layer, we are going to tap on it and select reference, and then we're going to add another layer and move it below our reference. And what this does is when you go to drop a color, it will act like you're dropping it directly on the outline layer, but you're doing it in a new layer so that if you have to start over for any reason, your outline doesn't get messed up. So I'm actually going to change colors. For here I did like a cutesy yellows and greens and oranges. Let's do purples and pinks for this one. So you can see I select my color and then do a color drop. I always like to make the back legs just a tiny bit darker. The same color, just a darker shade, because then it looks like there is some shadow there. And then I'm gonna do a baby pink for the belly and the spikes. And again, I'm just dragging and dropping that color. And if it looks like it's not filling all those spaces, then what you need to do is adjust your threshold. And you can, when you drop, move your pen to the right to increase that threshold, and it will fill the shape more. Okay, then I'm gonna do the spots in a variety of pinks, and I'm gonna do the toes in a really light version of that pink that's almost white. And if you know me, you know that these are some of my favorite colors. And that the more colorful something is, the more I like it. Oh, that's too close. Let's try. And again, tapping with 2 fingers does undo, and tapping with 1 finger does redo, just in case you need to know that. All right, so we have the cutest little purple and pink dinosaur all colored in. If you want to add any other details, now would be a great time to do it. Coloring in his nose. And then the last step is I added some details to him. Hi, Riley. Riley just came in the room, so if you hear footsteps, that's my little baby dog just checking out what I'm doing. But the last step, I did some highlights and I added a background. So I'm going to add another layer in between the reference and the background. And then I'm going to select that purple color. You can get the eyedropper by pressing and holding on your color. And then I can just go in here and get a lighter version. And then just draw some cute little highlight lines on my dinosaur. And when I do this, I never really do anything like too particular. I just follow like the contour shapes of my drawing. So where this was a curved spike, I would curve the highlight as well. And so I just did the highlights on the body and on the spikes and called it a day. And then for the background, we can add another layer behind our dinosaur and go in and add some detailing. So for the ground, what I did was just picked a green, drew a line straight across, and if you hold it and then tap the screen, it makes your line perfectly straight. And if you decide that you don't like the placement, you can move that around the same as you would do any shape. And then instead of a straight line, I'm going to just draw some squiggles to represent grass. Oops. Turn off your reference layer so that when you go to color drop here, it doesn't try and find the shape in your reference. And then the last thing we're going to do is work on the sky. Okay. So that line is definitely not straight. So we're going to try our trick again. And then color drop. So now we've got our dinosaur on the sky. And what I'm actually going to do is just, oops, make this a little bit bigger. And then move everything down so that you can see it a little bit better. There we go. And then if you want to add some clouds and the sun, I added another layer. And I did a yellow sun. You can add some orange detailing if you'd like. And then I just picked a light blue for those clouds. And what you can do is you can put them over the sun, overlap things, put them all throughout the sky. And for clouds, I usually just do like a combination of circles. Because they're organic and you never quite know what you're going to see in the sky. John is now in the shower, so if you hear that, that's what that is. And then the last thing, I like to just add some white highlights to my clouds. Again, just following the shape of them. To kind of look like, you know, the sun could be peeking through. But there is my finished dinosaur. You could always make his tail taller, his neck taller, his head smaller, a bigger belly, whatever you want to do for your dinosaur. But this is a really basic guideline of how to draw one for yourself. And I will be launching dinosaur scoring patterns as well as engraving patterns. Let me show you really quick, just a sneak preview of what is coming because it's really exciting. I've had a lot of requests for dinosaurs. I did my dinosaur scoring Valentines with these characters, and then we're going to have scoring patterns that have a mix of leaves as well as the different dinos, and I will be doing an engraving option as well as hopefully launching a color board with Craft Closet in these as well, which is probably one of my favorites so far. I'll give you a quick little glimpse at that. With all of the different dinosaurs in the leaves. So I am really excited about all of this. I hope you enjoy this week's workbook, and I'm so glad to be getting back to these.